When you heard that they were missing and there was no contact, what were your first thoughts as someone who's been there?
I mean, this entire industry, this adventure travel industry is dangerous. Going up in the rockets, visiting the volcanoes, everybody knows the risks involved. And I can tell you that these submersibles are one-offs. It's not like iPhones, there are thousands of them that they can perfect. There's one of it. And so there are certain improvised, he got the lights from Camper World. He drives the thing with an Xbox joystick game controller. So, but this is all standard in the field, and you know that it's a risk. So,
but when they first lost contact, why wasn't there effort to made to get to them immediately? How long was this trip supposed to last? Number one.
Usually it's 10 to 12 hours.
Okay.
It's 2.5 hours down, a few hours at the Titanic, and then a couple hours back up. Why didn't they send the alarm sooner? I can only guess it's because things go wrong all the time in this business. The time I was there, my dive to the Titanic only lasted 37 feet down, and then it had a mechanical problem and had to be hoisted back onto the ship. That's very standard. So they probably thought, well, the comms will come back.
David, to expand on Gil's question, are there any outside bodies outside of OceanGate that they paid to keep eyes on the sub just in case something like this happens?
No, it's in international waters. So this sub, as you sign on the waiver, you say, I understand that this sub has not been inspected or certified by any third-party body.
Whoa.
And
but if you're paying that much money, wouldn't you want to have a backup plan to the backup plan to ensure your safety?
I mean, I should tell you that there are many safety features of this sub and of the procedures. It's run like a rocket launch. There are these long checklists, and there are twice daily briefings that everybody has to attend. There are 7 different ways to come back to the surface.
Then why haven't they? That's the real question. Why have we not seen this thing come back
that's a good question.
into the sunlight?
That is the question that makes my blood run cold. Of those 7 different ballast systems, several of them work even if there's no electricity. One of them even works if everybody's passed out. It's a time-released sandbag that after 14 hours drops off by itself. So this thing should be bobbing on the surface. If it isn't, it could only mean 2 things. Either they got snagged on something on the bottom of the sea, which is pretty unlikely. There's nothing there but the Titanic. Or there was a breach in the hull and it instantly imploded.
Wow.
What do you think has happened when you look at the two? None of those are good. What do you?
None of those are good. The fact that they lost the signal 2/3 of the way down to the floor, that's really bad. That means something probably catastrophic happened to the whole thing.
The pressure is intense, but of all the things that you say were picked up at Camper World or Xbox, the hull itself was supposed to be Boeing and NASA and impenetrable.
The hull itself it was co-designed with the University of Washington and NASA. It's 5-inch thick carbon fiber, never been done before. Everybody told Stockton Rush, the CEO and designer of the sub, that he was crazy because that doesn't work that way. But in theory, the deeper you go as the pressure builds, the tighter the water is pushing in on those silver end caps and making it more and more waterproof. So that's why I didn't worry about implosion.
But what can you tell us about this company and the people that run it? Do you think they're being transparent here?
Stockton Rush is a really interesting guy. He's built and designed airplanes. He's built and designed previous submersibles. He's a direct descendant of 2 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. He is, I won't say cavalier, but he did say safety is relative. If you want to live in perfect safety, don't get out of bed.
Wow. But they've had successful dives doing this, right?
They have. They've been operating
More
for
than
3
once,
summers,
yeah.
and they've been down about 25 times.
Let's end on hope. You have some. What is it and why?
The hope is quickly fading, I'm afraid, because in theory they have 4 days worth of oxygen. It's never been tested. Nobody's ever measured it. And we're now 2 days into that. So half of that is gone. If they're at the bottom of the sea...
What do you mean no one has ever been down for 4 days?
Correct. No one's ever put 5 people in there and said, start the clock, let's see how long the air
in theory,
lasts.
it's supposed to have 4 days worth of oxygen, but
we
nobody's...
don't know.
Right. That's a calculation. So either they're underwater, which is devastating, because even if we find them, there's no way to rescue them. The deepest submarine rescue ever performed was 1,500 feet. that's like this. This is 13,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
There's no other craft that can get down there in time.
But everybody has an idea about where they are. Why can't they just send something down to look in that area, even if there's an explosion, as you think could have happened?
Because there's
Why can't
only
they just-
3 or 4 machines that can go to that depth in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're not, they take weeks to prepare, and they're not on site.
I see.
And suppose we had one, what would we do? Try to tow this thing up? I mean, the difference between a submarine, which is a torpedo-shaped thing that drives out of port on its own, and this thing, a submersible, is that this has to be carried everywhere. It has very little power. You can see in the picture, it's just these little plastic fans, basically.
So it's supposed
have
to
to
drop
say-
down and then just pop back up?
That's right. They release the ballast, they release the weight, and it just rises to the surface on its own.
The other thought, and I think this is part of the hope, is if it's on the surface now and it's located, it cannot be opened from the inside. So it has to be found in time. They will run out of oxygen, even if
Then
they're on
open
the
from the
surface.
outside.
Yeah,
That's right.
they gotta be reopened, so-
We were bolted in from the outside. There's 17 bolts on the outside. So
Sheesh.
the running out of air problem still affects us, even if they're at the surface right now. We need to find them.
Well, we heard someone say you need a miracle, and miracles.
Let's hope for one.
Yeah,
and we'll
miracles
have a
do
follow-up on CBS Sunday Morning this Sunday.
happen. All right, thank you,
David, thank
David.
you.